So to establish the network, we need the networking devices also. Networking devices like switch, router, firewall, etc. So we'll start with switch. We'll see what is the use of switch. So switch connect the end devices to share the information and resources in your LAN. So switches are used to connect the devices in your LAN. Let us say you are having some computers. These computers are in the same location and you want to connect all these computers to a LAN, then we need switch. You will take one switch and you will use this UTP cable and you will connect one end to this PC, the other end will be connected to the switch. Okay, so switches are used to connect the devices within your LAN. Without switch, you cannot imagine the LAN here. So as a network engineer, you should know which device is used for what. Switches are used to connect the devices within your LAN. So this is the picture of switch. And if you see the holes, these holes are referred to as ports, and this switch is having 48 ports, which means you can connect 48 end devices to this switch. Okay, so you switches are coming okay with 4 ports, 8 ports, 12 ports, 24 ports, 48 ports. Okay, normally we use 24 port switch, 48 port switches. So it is used to connect the devices in your LAN. We cannot imagine the LAN without switch. Then we have the access point. So again, the access points also are used to connect the devices in your LAN, but without cable. The functionality of access point and switch is same. With switch, you need the cable. You are having some PCs, you will take the switch and it required cable to connect the devices. With access point, let us say you are having some wireless devices. You are having smartphone, you are having tablet, laptop. These are the wireless devices. And if you want to connect these wireless devices to your LAN, then you will use the access point. This access point will generate the RF signals to connect the devices. So these access points, they come in different sizes, in different shapes. Okay, you can see this is the access point. This is also the access point. Okay, so access points are used to connect the wireless devices in your LAN without any cable. So access point like switch, it also connects the end devices to share the information and resources, but using RF signals, not using the cables. It can cover up to 10 to it can cover the area up to 100 meters. Okay, 10 to 100 meters. Then we have one more device called WLC. So WLC, let us try to understand what is the use of WLC. So you might have visited any shopping mall, airport. Okay, they are very big. They cover the very big area. So to cover this big area, let us say this is the shopping mall. Okay, and to cover this big area, one access point is not enough. Okay, you need to install multiple access point. Generally we install hundreds of access point to cover the big area like shopping mall, airport, etc. So you install hundreds of access point. That is why wherever we go in airport or shopping mall, we get the Wi-Fi connection because hundreds of Wi-Fi access points are installed. Access points provide you the Wi-Fi connectivity. Okay, so to manage these hundreds of access points, it will be very difficult for you. Let us say you want to upgrade the firmware of all the hundreds of access points. What you will do, you will access them individually one by one and you upgrade the firmware. Let us say you want to configure the security policy on all the hundreds of access point. Again, you will access them individually and you will create the policies, you will configure the security policies one by one, and it will take a lot of time. There is an administrative overhead here. So to avoid it, what you will do, you will access all the access points from a central device called WLC. So if you are having WLC in your network, you don't need to access the access points individually. You can upgrade the firmware from WLC. You can configure the security policy from WLC from a central point. Okay, so if you see, we are having multiple access points. So let us say we are having hundreds of access points. All of them are connected to WLC or wireless LAN controller, and from the wireless LAN controller, we can manage the different access points. So WLC, it provides the centralized management of all the access points in the network, makes it easier to manage multiple access points from a central point. Example, airport, shopping mall, etc. Again, you will get different types of WLCs. We will discuss about the different types of WLCs in our wireless. Okay, so if you see, we are having these WLCs here. Okay, they are used to manage the access point from a central point. All right, so switches are used in LANs, okay, to connect the devices, and switches require the cable. The access points, they are also used in your LAN, but it will connect the devices without any wire here, and WLCs are used to manage the access point from a central point. Then we have another networking device called router. So this is the picture of router. Okay, what is the use of router? It is a networking device which allows different networks to communicate. Okay, so let us say you are having two different LANs or two different networks, you can say. In this example, we are having Hyderabad LAN and we are having Bangalore LAN. And you want to make the communication between these two different networks. Okay, LAN in the sense local area network. Okay, here also we are having Hyderabad LAN and we are having Bangalore local area network. So we are having two different networks here. And if you want to make them communicate, you need the router. So what you will do, you will purchase one router for Hyderabad LAN, another router for Bangalore LAN. And the first thing you will do is you will connect the Hyderabad router with Hyderabad LAN, Bangalore router with Bangalore LAN. Then you will contact the service provider. Service provider will connect these two different routers using WAN link. Then you will configure the routing. You will configure both the routers, and these two different networks, they will start communicating with each other. So you need to remember one basic point here. Whenever you see two different networks and you want to make them communicate, you need the router. Okay, so it can be like two different LANs. Okay, we are having two different LANs. You will use the router. And if you are having two different WANs, again, wide area network, you will use the router. Then if you are having LAN and internet, let us say you are having some computers. To connect these computers to a LAN, you need a switch. You will connect these four computers to this switch and it is forming the local area network. N means network here. Now our requirement is to provide the internet access. We have the internet. Okay. Internet, as we have discussed, it is a public WAN, wide area network. So we are having two different networks. And our requirement is to provide the internet access to these PCs. So what you will do, you will take the router, you will contact the service provider. Service provider will connect the internet with your router. Okay, so even if you want to provide the internet access to your LAN, we need the router because a router is connecting two different networks here. So this is the idea behind. Whenever you see two different networks, if you want to make them communicate, you need a router. As a network engineer, as I told you, you need to know the uses. Okay, what is the use of which device? Then we have one more device called firewall. Firewall, what is the use? It is used to secure your network. How it secures your network, let us try to understand. So firewall is a network security system that controls network traffic based on security rules you configure on it. So it is basically a security device which secures your network. This firewall is having three zones: trusted zone, untrusted zone, and demilitarized zone or DMZ. We will discuss about these three different zones one by one in detail. For now, just you remember this point: firewalls are used to secure your network. How it is securing, we will try to understand. We will take one example. Let me open the paint. So let us say you are having this LAN, you are having some PCs in your LAN, two PCs are there. Then you are having one server. This server, let us say it is a web server. Then you are having another server. Let us say the other server is the finance server. Finance server, and this is the confidential server. Okay, all these devices, you want to connect all these devices to a LAN, so you will take one switch. Then you will connect all these devices to this switch, and it is forming the LAN here. Now our requirement is to connect all these devices, or your requirement is to connect your LAN to the internet. This is the internet. So we need a router. Okay. So as we have discussed, if you are having two different network, we are having LAN and WAN. Okay, we need the router. So we will take one router. Router will be connected to switch. Okay, again, we will contact the service provider, and service provider will connect your router to the internet. Okay, so our LAN is connected to the internet, and as we have discussed, internet is a public WAN, which means anyone can connect to internet. The attacker or hacker is also connected to the internet. This is the attacker PC. Now attacker is also connected to the internet. Okay, via internet, what he will do? He will hack, go to the router. From router, he will hack your finance server, because there is no security here. Okay, so to provide the security, we need the firewall here. So what you will do? You will take one firewall. You will install the firewall between a router and switch. This is the firewall. Okay. Now this firewall is having three zones. As we have discussed, it is having three zones. One is trusted zone. Another one is untrusted zone. And the third zone is DMZ. Let us discuss about these three zones. Okay. Trusted zone is your LAN. Okay. Because this is your LAN and you trust it. And untrusted zone is the internet. We don't trust internet. That is why it is referred to as untrusted zone. All right. So this firewall is used to protect your trusted zone from untrusted zone. Now we have the firewall. Attacker is accessing the internet. From internet, it will access the router. From the router, the request will go to the firewall. Then firewall will see that the request is coming from untrusted zone and it wants to access the trusted zone. It will deny the request. So firewall will not allow the untrusted request, okay, to access the trusted zone. Okay, firewall will not allow any request from internet to access your LAN. Remember this part. This is the basic idea behind the firewall. It will not allow the internet users to access your trusted zone. It will not allow the internet users to access your LAN here. So it will block it. Everything is working fine. Let us say your customer is also connected to the internet and he wants to open the web server. This web server is your, let us say, hosting your e-commerce website. So you sell your product via web server. Okay, and this customer wants to purchase something. So what he will do, he will try to open this web server. Again, your request will go to internet. From internet, the request will go to the router. From router, the request will go to the firewall. Again, the firewall will see that the request is coming from internet, the request is coming from untrusted zone, and he wants to access your trusted zone. It will deny, okay, which is not good. We are denying our customers to purchase the product from our website. Okay, so how will you overcome from this problem? So instead of placing the web server in your trusted zone, you will place the web server in a special zone called DMZ. Okay, so any server you want to be accessed from outside should not be placed in your trusted zone. It should be in DMZ. Okay. Now again, the customer wants to open the website. The request will go to the internet. From internet, the request will go to the router. From router, the request will go to firewall. Firewall will see the request is coming from untrusted zone, but this time he wants to access the DMZ. Then it will allow it. Okay. So the basic idea behind this firewall is to secure your trusted zone from untrusted zone. If you want to allow any server to be accessed from outside like web server, email server, then you should place it into DMZ, not in your LAN. Okay. So this is the firewall for you. It is used to secure your network. It is used to secure your trusted zone from untrusted zone. So the main scope is to control the traffic coming from untrusted zone. So this is the picture of firewall. It is used to secure your network. Then we are having IP phones. Okay, so IP phone uses voice over IP for making call over the IP network instead of PSTN. So previously, for calling, if you want to make the calls, we had a separate network called PSTN. For transmitting the data, it is known as IP network. Whatever the networks we have discussed, like LAN, MAN, WAN, they are the IP networks. They are used for transmitting the data only. Okay. So for transmitting the data, IP network, for calling, PSTN. Now, as the technology gets improved, we can even make the call over the IP network. Okay, if you see here in our Hyderabad line, we have one IP phone. In Bangalore line, we have one IP phone. So from this IP phone, we can make the calls also. Then we have another device called broadband wireless router. This is the device, you might have seen it before. Okay, so you might have seen this device at your home, which provides the Wi-Fi. Okay, so let us try to understand what is this device actually. Is it a router, switch, firewall, or what? Okay, so let us say you are having 4 computers. You are having a small network with 4 to 15 computers. 4 to 15 devices are there. Okay, so what you have done, you have purchased one switch for this smaller network. You have purchased this switch to connect them to your LAN. Switches are used to connect the devices in your LAN. You have purchased it. Now, your second requirement is to provide the internet access. So what you will do? You will purchase router again for a smaller network. You have purchased one dedicated router. You will contact the service provider. Service provider will connect your network with the internet. Okay, this is your second requirement. Let us say your third requirement is to provide the security. So you will purchase the firewall. You will purchase the firewall and you will place it between switch and router. Again, you have purchased the dedicated firewall here. Then your fourth requirement is to connect the wireless devices. In your network, you are having most of the networks nowadays, they are having the wireless devices like smartphones, tablets, and the laptop, etc. So let us say you are having some wireless devices and you want to connect these wireless devices to your LAN. So we need the access point. So you will purchase one dedicated access point. This access point, it will generate the RF signals to connect the wireless devices. Okay, so till now we have purchased switch, firewall, router, and we have purchased the access point also. And let us say your fifth requirement is to provide the IP addresses from DSC automatically. So all these devices require the IP address. Okay, what is this IP address? We will discuss it in detail for now. Just try to understand what is this IP address. It is like the mobile number of your devices. Okay, like you cannot make the communication without mobile number. Even though you are having the mobile phone, you cannot make the communication without mobile number. These devices in your network, they should have the IP address. Without IP address, they cannot communicate with each other. Okay, and they should be assigned to each and every device. And our requirement is to assign the IP addresses via DSCP. Okay, so you will purchase DSCP server, and this DSCP server will assign the IP addresses to all the devices automatically. Okay, so if you see, we have purchased switch, firewall, router, access point, and DSCP server for a smaller network with 4 to 15 computers. It will work, there is no doubt, but it is not the ideal solution. You need to spend a lot here. You need to purchase switch, router, firewall, access point. You need to purchase the DSCP server. Okay, and you need to hire the network engineer also to manage the smaller network with 4 to 15 computers. So instead of purchasing all these dedicated devices, you can use this wireless router. If you see, it is having 4-port switch where you can connect your PCs. You will connect all your PCs here. This is our first requirement, to connect the devices to a LAN. Our second requirement is to provide the internet access. So it is having the internet port also. So you will contact the service provider. Service provider will connect the internet to this port. So it is acting as a switch router. And our third requirement was to provide the security. We should have the firewall. So this device is having the internet internal firewall also. The same device will provide you the security. Our fourth requirement was to connect our wireless devices. Okay, if you see the antennas, these antennas, okay, they will generate the RF signals to connect your wireless device. So it is acting as an firewall also. And the same device will provide the IP addresses dynamically. All your devices, okay, you might have accessed the Wi-Fi, okay, via your phone. Okay, even if you are accessing the internet via Wi-Fi, your device, the smartphone, required the IP address. How it is getting the IP address? This device is providing the IP address. Okay, so it is a 5-in-1 device where you will get switch, router, firewall, DSCP server, and access point, and it is ideal for a smaller network with 4 to 15 computers. If you are having hundreds of computers, then you need to purchase the dedicated devices.